European Commission, so I had to cut short you on the other side. So I understand you had a lot of good conversations about the future technology. So there might be some redundancy here. Hopefully I'll give you some slightly different perspectives so that you can see more facets of the future. One of the most important things I think that futurists should be telling people is this first sentence. The change is going to happen. We hear this all the time, right? Now, the trouble is, when we talk about change, you say, okay, there's been 25 years of change. This is what we hit. This is what we had in Peru, the United States, Russia, where, and then the next 25 years do the same amount of change. No. No. Otherwise, you'd have a whole lot of telegraph machines now. But the internet came along. My first email was 1973. 73. And for 18 years, I had to listen to people tell me, I don't need computer communications. I have a fax machine. Right? That sounds odd today, but we're making the same mistake today, and I'll point out some of that. Why do I stress this? Because people don't use their imaginations to what's possible. It's too far out. I gave a briefing to the U.S. State Department and USAID in 1982 about computer communications. And they said, no, we're never going to do this because you can't control the information flow. They did. I'm not kidding. I'm not making this up. Some people even said, we'll never use this because that means I won't be able to have international travel. I mean, the amount of nonsense I had to put up with for all these years, right? Some of you may remember CarryNet. I don't know if anybody here old enough. In the early 1980s, there's CarryNet. It hooked up 29 developing countries. I created CarryNet out of a computer at New Jersey Institute of Technology because I couldn't get anybody else to do it. Right? Now, we could have had that stuff in 1973. Not 1990, not 1995, not the year 2000. We could have had it in 1973. When you make a phone call from here to London in 1965, some of the money would go to London and some of the money would go here. How did they divide up the money? Email. 3 o'clock in the morning, computers communicated. We had no guts, we had no imagination, and we're full of stupid people getting in the way of creative people. We should be intolerant of stupidity. That's all I got to say. All right. Now, the other is we got to leapfrog. You've heard this expression about the little animal that jumps over things, right? Everybody talks about leapfrog, right? And what happened? People say, well, we got to go step by step by step. No, we don't have to go step by step. If you want to go step by step by step, you expect Silicon Valley to sit down and do nothing for 30 years? Right? You can't jump ahead. Why not? That's what the United States did with England. That's what China's doing with the United States. That's what South Korea's doing. You jump over a lot of stuff. So what do you jump over to? Well, here are some of the things. Artificial intelligence, synthetic biology, computational science. I'll go over each of these a little bit. Pure meat and leather without animals or augmented medicine. Tele-everything, tele-everybody, semantic web. Augmented reality, telepresence, holographic communications, quantum computing, increasing individual and collective intelligence, 3D printing in biology, as well as 3D printing materials like outside, and also 4D printing, nanotechnology, robotic manufacturing, and conscious technology civilization potential. So, you know how a wave sort of pulls up this sort of stuff and then all of a sudden comes down, right? Now, that's maybe not overly dramatic when it comes to artificial intelligence. Why? When I say artificial intelligence, I am not talking about expert programs. Expert programs is a bunch of if-thens to replace you in a simple decision-making system. All right? That's expert programs. It's perfectly good. We should learn from it. Nice idea. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about artificial intelligence can autonomously write its own software, change its code by responding to feedback by sensor networks worldwide. If you have a water project here in Peru, your expert intelligence can update every piece of learning worldwide, moment by moment, and rewrite its code. That's not been done before in history. This is a completely different deal. All right? When this actually begins to happen, that means that artificial intelligence can get more intelligent moment by moment, not year by year, moment by moment. That's not the same as Moore's Law. Now we all know Moore's Law, right? Everybody knows Moore's Law. And that's a big deal. That's going to look like a small, slow car 20 years or so from now, 25 years from now. Now, synthetic biology. We're not talking about genetic engineering. Genetic engineering, you take the DNA, you take something out, you put something in, and it's still a human being, but they have green eyes. Okay? Genetic engineering. Synthetic biology is different. Synthetic biology is you take something from one species, something from another species, maybe design something that's never even had a DNA sequence ever before, put the three of them together into an egg, reproduce, and you have a species with capabilities we've never had before. That's synthetic biology. One of the things that I want to do is I want to get, and I signed an agreement with Korea, by the way, on this, to get microbes to eat the plaque in your brain. You know, the reason that old people don't work right is because of this sugar junk in the nerve endings. You know, in your brain, you got the synapse. You get this junk in there. Now, in our digestive system, we have microorganisms. There's more microorganisms in your body than cells in your body. Humans are a minority in their own body. True, you're a minority. The little guy's sitting there eating up all that stuff, making sure that you can get digestion. If we didn't have it, we'd all be dead. We got nothing in our head. Some people thought I had nothing in my head for a long time, but that's different. But we have nothing in our brain to eat the plaque. Why can't we create synthetic biology, eat the plaque, and so there's long-range trends people are talking about. You're 99 years old, and you're thinking like you're 20 years old. We don't want to have old, infirm idiots. Anyway, the other one, there's going to be a lot of stuff, but another one is hydrogen instead of oxygen coming out of plants. So you could take the African deserts, have closed environment agriculture, have robotic, tending to the water and so forth, growing these plants, producing hydrogen, and filling up hydrogen tanks if you want to. I'm not saying we've got to do this, but this gives you an idea of the spread. Now, what's really significant about this, yes, I want to have this stuff in my brain, but even more important than that, think of how much change has been created by writing and the invention of software. Thousands and thousands of programs. We will write genetic code like we wrote computer code. So we will be able to make many, many, many different kinds of species. This is gigantic. There's moral implications, there's ethical implications, there's environmental implications, there's health implications. It's gigantic. People got to take this seriously today. We don't want to wait to the end. In the early days of internet, and when I was hooking up Latin American countries, everybody was a small number of people, we were all excited, it was wonderful. And then in came pornography and viruses and organized crime. So we now have these future technologies out there that are very likely. We have time to think it together as a human species. It's not enough for Peru to do everything right. We as a species have to do it right. All right? This is really serious stuff. Okay, and another thing that's speeding all this stuff up, even independence of artificial intelligence, but related to it, is computational science. Remember in the old days, you had to build a laboratory, do a hypothesis, do research, do the publication, all that stuff. Took a long time. Now you can have millions of people's computers doing computer matching on molecular thing, on cancer or whatever it happens to be, and then do simulations and then speed up science day by day. And furthermore, worldwide. Not just in a laboratory in Silicon Valley, worldwide. Same thing, computational chemistry, computational physics. So, an acceleration with Moore's Law and the autonomous AI programming worldwide makes this even faster. All right? One of the things that I hope will be a big surprise in the future is you don't need a cow to make a hamburger. You don't need a cow to have Gucci leather boots. Now, Iron and protein for a baby's brain is critically important between years 3 to 5. Why? Because they're off the breast and the hand's not developed to get the protein in. So they end up with kwashiorkor, which means the brain hasn't developed. We are facing a world mental retardation problem coming up because the forces that increase the price of meat are going up. So meat, the one great advantage of meat, it's got iron and protein. You take a bite, you get iron and protein, and your neurons start to develop. You eat just starch, just something else, you don't get enough complexity of the brain and you're mentally retarded. Okay, now, aside from that, I don't know if you know this, but there's more greenhouse gas effect from animal industry than the transportation industry. You know that? We're all pointing at the transportation industry. I have my Prius and all that sort of stuff. But nevertheless, if you really want to make climate change happen fast, change your food. FAO 2006, do the Google search. They did a comparison between the meat industries and the transportation industries, and the biggest polluter overall is the meat industries. Now, we can make it with genetic material. You stimulate the genetic material, you make a hamburger. That was done in 2013. Very expensive, like any beginning, but then eventually it comes down in price. I suspect that leather will be the first one, because leather, you don't have to worry about the taste. You know? The hamburger's a little more complex. So you'll see some products coming out, I think within a few years, will be leather, called New Harvest. This is an old chart, some people remember. That's the big impact of the beef going all the way down. By the way, it shouldn't be called cultured meat. My request to all of you, please, if you're in a situation to write an article or do something about this kind of meat, please call it pure, not cultured, not in vitro. Who wants to eat in vitro meat? Yeah, right? Pure. And why is it pure? Because you're really doing the pure genetic material, and we might even be able to customize the medicine for your body, so it becomes medicine as well as food. Okay, Internet of everything, connectivity of everything, everybody's everywhere, seems to be pretty inevitable. We'll be able to integrate our clothing in the whole thing so that you'll keep track of how your body is doing and telecommunicate that off to your hospital and insurance company and take care of your body. Augmented reality, many different ways we will be augmenting realities. But the point I want to make here is the distinction between this 3D world and a computer-generated world will be indistinguishable to the next generation, most likely. In the same way that a telephone in the 1970s and a computer in the 1970s, you put them together, you know they're different things, but in the act of email, you can't separate them. So in that sense of can't separate anymore, this is all kinds of serious problems for solipsism. You think you're the center of the universe and you get paranoid and get weird. There's all kinds of psychological problems we have to think through now. Philosophers, ethics people, we got to think this through seriously. In the upper right-hand corner, by the way, we've already had augmented reality surgery. So you can see exactly what's going on more easily. Quantum computing changes all what I've said even more. Because in normal computing, you still have a number of circuits that you have to go through. Quantum computing, it goes together simultaneously. So if we do quantum computing, it really speeds everything up. And some people argue that D-Wave developments that are in the computer lab now are the beginnings of quantum computing already. So, having said that, it's a more complex world. We need better brains. The United States, the European Union, and China have global brain projects right now. Everybody knows that? Yes? Good. Also, Google and IBM are creating artificial brain projects. Okay? Now, it seems to me in 10 years, those 5 phenomena will interact so that the idea of the next generation brains ought to be augmented geniuses. Augmented geniuses. What's a genius? We tend to say it's somebody who can solve a problem in less time than anybody else. Well, if you're augmented with all this sort of stuff, and everybody's connected to everything, and you've got artificial intelligence integrating with your brain faster, why wouldn't you be a genius? Now, 2050, we say that there's going to be 9.6, maybe 10 billion people on the planet. What kind of a world will we have if we have 10 billion augmented geniuses in the world? Huh? We have to take this seriously. We have time to think about it. How are we teaching our children, hey, you might be an augmented genius. And your playmates worldwide might be augmented geniuses too. What does this do about economics, power, politics? We have to think these things through. So, there's not a country in the world, except for Venezuela for just a couple of years, where increasing intelligence is an objective of the Ministry of Education. So homework assignment number 1 in Peru, get the Ministry of Education to increase intelligence as an objective. Why? Because then the teacher training, you say, well, how do we increase intelligence? You know, if that's part of what your objective is, the education schools, you bring in crazy consultants like myself and others to figure out how do you make the next generation more intelligent. Because we know in the old days, you had a school because the rest of the world didn't have much knowledge. Now, the schools are the low part of knowledge to some degree, and we got all of this intelligence going on, all this knowledge going on, all this interconnectivity going on. So what am I going to do with it? Who am I? What am I going to do with this? What kind of society do we want to have? We thought about work as that which keeps society going, more or less. And we have to do enough work so we can have our children, have good education, get a good job, and take care of us in our old age. Then bingo, the same thing. It's going and going and going and going. It's reasonable to assume, this is where the economists are in trouble. The economists keep teaching us we need so many people to make the system work. Okay, that's not the only purpose for work. That's not the only purpose of your life. We might be able to run society with 10, 20% employment. Well, that means 90 to 80% unemployment. You can't have a world with 80 to 90% unemployment. Social instability everywhere. We have to rethink our economic assumptions now. It's not a problem tomorrow morning, but it will be. We have to think about these things now. Okay, so imagine a world of 10 billion people, augmented geniuses. And there's you, an individual in such a world. What's going on? How to increase individual intelligence? I'll do this fast because this will be a whole lecture just by itself. Responding to feedback. Don't just get feedback, you gotta respond. If you just get feedback, it makes you stupid. That's information overload. You gotta respond. Consistency of love, diversity of environment. That's why we give babies all these colorful sort of things, but then we don't change them the next day. Don't have the thing hanging down over the crib the same way. Move it. The colors on it. Do something, because the brain is very straightforward. There's nothing new for me to look at. Why should I wire it in my brain? You need consistency of love because you have to feel safe. That can work for a country, it can work for a world. Same concept. Nutrition, that's an obvious one. That's what Venezuela did, by the way, for 2 years. Reasoning exercises, believing it's possible. Doctors tell us that if you think you're going to get sicker, it's about 10% sicker. Right? Now, they don't know. We just make up the number, 10%. And if you think you're going to get better, it's worth 10% you're better. That's a 20-point spread. 20-point spread in IQ is a lot. You can think yourself smart. You can think yourself stupid. Don't let other people think yourself stupid. Let other people think yourself smart. Because that causes neural activity in your brain. You know? Okay. That's the cheapest one, by the way. Contact with intelligent people. Now, we all know this. Remember, you take a tuning fork, you hit it, picks up a vibration, take another fork, put it next to it, it picks it up. Imitation is one of the basic strategies of life. Imitation. Remember E.T., Phone Home? The E.T. kept imitating people. So imitation is a basic strategy of life. So that's why parents say, oh, don't play with that kid, he's dumb. Play with that kid, he's smart. Well, you can't have 90% or 99% of the world playing with 1%. It's sort of difficult. But you can in cyberspace. You can be taught physics by an avatar of Albert Einstein. You can be taught history by an avatar on Toynbee. These things are in the cards for the future. Software systems and gaming. Now, Korea overdoes it. Korea is great on gaming. They're going like crazy all the time on gaming. Now, it does make you smart. That's true. But it's like anything. You can overdo it. You got to calm down there a little bit in Korea. You're doing great, but you got to calm down a little bit. Neuropharmacology. Our brain is a lot of things, but it is at least a chemical system. What's the proper chemistry to improve the brain while you're listening? What's the proper chemistry for your brain while you're talking? What's the proper brain chemistry while you're sleeping? What's the chemistry for your brain while you're exercising? We don't do this. You know, it's a controversial area. Remember the 1960s? Don't mess with the brain. 9, memes. Classrooms and elsewhere could have things like intelligence is sexy. Now, women in the world, around the world, often are afraid to show their boyfriends how intelligent they are, because they believe that an intelligent woman frightens away the guy. So, you know, you got the bangs covering up the forehead, you know, don't look too intelligent, you know. This is placebo the other way. You're programming females to be dumber. That's not smart. So, you make intelligence sexy. Now here comes Korea again. Korea's got these games. Take a look at the women in these games. They are sexy, they are intelligent, and they knock the shit out of the guy. You know? So good for you. No, but we've got to do things like this. Memes, oh boy. All right, let's wrap. We got 5 minutes. We got 5 minutes.
We can stay if you want.
Aussie rules, huh? You know what Aussie rules really are? I used to compete in boomerangs. And Aussie rules are the judge's decision is final unless overruled by an overwhelming response from the public. Aussie rules. Anyway, okay, let me just back up a little bit. I'll try to go fast. Okay, low stress, stimulating environments, music, color, fragrances, improve performance. Now, all of these 10 things are short term. All right? So they'll say, well, that doesn't improve your intelligence, that's just a short term impact. So is breathing oxygen. Oxygen's a short-term impact, but we keep breathing it, okay? The longer ones, reverse engineering the brain, we now have that working. US, the European Union, China are working on this now. Second one, applied epigenetics. That's about changing your genes within a generation. That's new stuff. Designer microbes, that's the one I talked about before, to eat the plaque in the neurons. These things should be in the Minister of Education's office. Increasing collective intelligence of a country. You can do individual intelligence, but you can increase the intelligence of a country. What do I mean by collective intelligence? It emerges from the synergies of interaction among data, information, knowledge, software, hardware, experts, and others with insight that continually learns from feedback, to produce just-in-time knowledge for better decisions than these elements acting alone. We all know you take the wise people, you ask them the questions, they give you the answer, and you go on. Then the young generation says, you use the internet, search the internet, you'll get the information, we'll make a decision. Then the mathematician says, give me your data, I'll make a model, and that'll handle it. All three are right. So we've got to have a system, a platform for the whole country, where all three of these things interact with each other. So you take the best of each, you can make them changeable all the time, just like your brain changes all the time. So it's the interaction of those three things, and Peru should have that. We're putting one into Egypt, we do one ourselves. It's explained in the commercial. Here we go, the State of the Future report, and the commercial. Now, 3D printing, you saw it outside. Last year, 3D printed kidneys. They only lasted 4 months, but eventually you'll be able to bioprint any part of your body. How long can you live if you did that? 4D printing. You print something with some tension points in it, so once you're finished printing it, it organizes itself. That's 4D printing. 4D, times a measurement of motion, makes a motion. If there's no motion, it's a 3D printing. Makes the motion, is 4D printing. Everybody can have fashion design. Nanotech everything. There's 2 approaches to nanotechnology. One is you make a big machine to make little things. That's what we have today. So that there's clothing that don't, you put wine on clothing, it doesn't go in, hard surfaces, all that stuff today is not this. All of that is big machine making little things. This is the big deal. 10, 20 years, it's reasonable to say we might be able to make what's called molecular manufacturing. You make little things, make bigger things, make bigger things, make a house. Precisely putting together all of the atoms in microbes so you don't have waste. You have more product with less energy and less resource. Precision. Today you can get a bicycle, nanotech bicycle, weighs a feather, strong as hell, and flexible. Experiments with biology going on, flexible stuff. The one up here is a big deal. That's where you take large nanotubes, you braid them like hair, and you make it 23,000 miles up into space, and you have a space elevator. Right now, we send a rocket, and it goes up, right? Yeah, it's terribly wasteful when you think about it, and very dangerous. But you know, like when you have an elevator, the weight goes down, the elevator goes up. This is just a real big elevator. So this means that you can go up to space for the weekend, you can put solar power satellites and produce enough electricity for the world without greenhouse gases and without nuclear waste. China says they're going to do it by 2040, Japan says by 2030, the United States is out to lunch, the European Union is reconsidering it. We'll see how it turns out. But this is part of the linchpin. If we can have good quality control on nanotech to go that far, everything changes about space. In the quantum computing, you'll notice I got a Chinese flag in the quantum computing. They may hit it before the US. This, people say, oh, this is modern. Well, not for very long, because with nanorobotics, 3D printing, and artificial intelligence, this is completely obsolete. And one of the ways to wrap your mind around this, you make your own list. List what you think is significant about the future, whether it's technologies or governance systems, whatever. List it down one side, put it across, same one across the top, and you say, how will nanotechnology change synthetic biology? How will synthetic biology change nanotechnology, etc.? I guarantee you a dinner anywhere in Lima, Peru, whenever I come back next time, that if you do this in the privacy of your own home, do a little grid, put it together, you go through it, actually try to fill in each one a little bit. I guarantee you, you will come up with an idea in your head that has never been there before. And if you don't, I owe you dinner. This is how inventors invent what is called morphological analysis. Anyway, how many farmers will this is today, this is not the future. This is a satellite-controlled robot run by photovoltaic cells, little artificial intelligence software, not very much, but more expert software. This means you could do this sort of stuff everywhere on the planet. Eyeglasses and microscopes and telescopes have affected our consciousness for years. How will all this stuff affect our next consciousness in the future? Will we merge with technology? Will we fight technology? Will it leave us in the dustbin? Or, is Terminator the movie of the future? What's going to happen? My attitude is if you can't beat them, join them. This is a serious question for civilization now. If you take seriously what I've just said, the artificial intelligence can do the agriculture, can do the manufacturing, can do the lawyers get augmented as well, automated as well, etc. Where are we going to make a living? We have to have a new economics. But if we don't have a new economics, a new way of handling this sort of stuff, humans could be left in the act. So Terminator, it's a movie. But the concept is not dumb. The concept has to be taken seriously. What are we going to do? Not just Peru, not just the United States, what are we human beings going to do? My view is conscious technology, we're becoming cyborgs. I have glasses, we drive a car. The cyborg is dependent upon technology for vital functions. I have the numbers here because the numbers are increasing. That's clearly the direction. The physical environment becomes more intelligent. You talk to it talks to you, it's a conscious partner. The whole world becomes your family. When these two merge, this is the post-information age, you can't make the distinctions anymore. Here's a quick chart of the whole deal. I won't go through it because the chairman's being very polite with me. We're still being polite. Let's take one of them, for example. The agricultural age, industrial age, information age, conscious technology age. The agricultural age, the product obviously was food and resources, oil, mining, food, that. Then you move to machine. You still have food. It's not like one replaces the other. It's that the next one grows on top of the other. Okay, this is important. People keep thinking about A is this, and B is going to replace it. But when you talk like that, whoever's involved in A is against you. Now, we have an old reptilian brain running our digestion, running all that stuff that we don't want to worry about. It's still there. This brain up here, doing the talking and all this sort of stuff, did not replace this. It built on top of it. Just like power. Power was originally religion that organized society, but then the nation state grew on top of it, a new kind of power. Corporate power moves on top of that. Individual power moves on top of that, and so forth. The purpose of the chart here is to give you a general sense of direction. So the agenda, after saying all that jazz. How can sustainable development be achieved by all in the framework of climate change? How can safe and clean water be available to everyone without conflict? Why without conflict? The water tables are going down on all continents on the world. All. And between 40 to 60% of the water consumed today will be consumed from sources controlled by 2 or more countries. You take those two facts together, and that's unending war. By the way, there's answers to all this sort of stuff. You know, it's in the book, obviously. How can resources and population be brought together? How can genuine democracy emerge from authoritarian regimes? How can, I can't even read this from this angle. How can decision-making be improved? 6, how can, oh, this is terrible, I can't read this one. 6, how can information and communication technology work for everybody? 7, how can the development gap be reduced? 8, how can new diseases, you know, we've got Ebola going on right now. As we press people more into different directions, you're getting the spread, and we're moving into animal areas. So we do both of those things, which means the idea of new diseases like Ebola coming back up and old diseases coming up are likely. How do we come up with new approaches to that? How can, 9, how can the capacity, how can we become more intelligent and more wise to address all these challenges in learning and education? How can shared values and new security strategies reduce ethnic conflict, terrorism, and the use of mass destruction? How can changing nature of status of women change the human condition, improve the human condition? How can transnational organized crime networks be stopped from becoming more powerful, sophisticated, global? Pause. Pause. I love your talk. One pivot. I don't think organized crime can be managed the way we're doing it right now. Yes, somebody stealing a car, that's one thing. But the whole integration of organized crime, nuclear smuggling, cyber spying, all that sort of stuff, getting into a global system is deadly serious. We spend, the world, humans, we spend about 1.6, 1.5 trillion with a T. I know in Spanish there's a problem with the commas here. But $1 trillion on military weapons worldwide. That's including aircraft carriers, Veterans Administration, doctors, the whole thing, put it together. Organized crime, we figure, is over $3 trillion, which means that you take the entire military establishment of the world, double its money, and you've got what organized crime has. Now, very true, organized crime is not a coordinated, integrated world system, but neither are all the militaries in the world either. I say this because futures and policy making are not taking this seriously. We need a global, integrated strategy. Details to follow after a couple of pisco sours. How can energy demand be met? Science and technology and global ethics. So we're in a race between implementing ever-increasing ways to improve the human condition, because every time I turn on my computer, I learn there's something damn nice going on. Every day. A lot of good stuff. We're surrounded by answers. And the complexity and scale of problems. Collective intelligence can help win the race. One of the things that I want to quickly go through is long-term trend on food prices, water, and energy are going up. Here are 16 factors about just food going up. That's why I said we've got to change the food base of the world. One of them is seawater agriculture. You got, I heard you got a saltwater area around here. Well, all of that coastline, well, except for the beautiful tourist areas, can produce shrimp can produce algae for biofuels, can produce water, I mean, pulp for paper, can carbon sink so you can get your risk paid for sucking in where it's brown, now it's green. And it also can be done in poor areas, so it's economic development strategies. It's not being taken seriously in the world. There's little projects in Eritrea, little projects in Kuwait, little projects in India, little projects in China. But we got to get serious about it. This is a big deal. We don't have enough water to run the food of the world. Right? Okay, this is for sport. Going a little bit further out, we're talking just a little bit before about Machu Picchu and how different ways of getting there. This might be a new way. This is fantasy stuff, but it's not crazy stuff. You can make this with self-assembly nano robots with artificial intelligence manufacturing, and these would be items that are sucking out CO2 in the air, so they're a carbon sink. They're improved. But by the way, when people say the goal should be 450 parts per million, nonsense. We already have 400, and we're in serious trouble now. So, see, well, 450, that's the only thing that's politically viable. Nature doesn't give up about political viability. We got to have a 10-year program, US, China lead it, to get us down to 350. Well, we're seriously moving toward Venus. I first wrote about climate change in 1973. I have watched the conversation better than anybody I know on the planet. I am absolutely convinced we got to turn things around. Now, this can be very cool. I mean, imagine instead of like a blimp where you go around, you get this somewhere, you go into here, it's got little propellers on the side. It lifts you up, you go to the other area, you have a wonderful time, you cleaned up the environment, you reduce your carbon footprint, you produce food, you produce energy with biofuels. This kind of large-scale integrated thinking, in my judgment, is important. Remember my first comment was, we constantly miss opportunities because we don't understand how much change is possible, therefore we don't do it. Implications for Peru. How to change the future views, we're focused so much on commodities, we've got to get off that, we know that. So how do you change it for the next economic system? The President's office should have a serious future strategy unit that produces an annual State of the Future Peru report every year, not boilermaker, real comments. State of the Future Index, if Peru's better in 10 years, what does that mean specifically? And create an integrated index and then do it every year. And then argue about it, you should. Create a national collective intelligence system that proves challenges, reports, government policies, etc. Establish a permanent committee in your legislature for the future. It does not allocate money, it allocates knowledge, like in Finland, good model. And participate in regional futures activities. Also, Fernando, I'll tell you, stand up. Fernando's my boss here in Peru. He's the head of the Money Project in Peru. And we collaborate with these guys. So these are the kinds of technologies that I believe Peru could use, begin to work on now, to leapfrog. And if you don't, shame on you. All of these are perfectly good things. Here's a situation chart you can put in your collective intelligence system to make it available to everybody. What's the next steps? What's the current status? What are the synergies? So that the country can think itself together about how it goes. Will synergies among AI, robotics, nanotech, synthetic biology, quantum computing create more jobs than eliminate? Previous speaker made that very clear. That's a question. It's an open question. So we can't sit on our bottom waiting for the answer. We have to be proactive on it. So the new concepts of economics, a very simple one is non-ownership. No one owns the internet. Non-ownership is a driving force of economics today. Communism has state ownership. Capitalism has private ownership. Non-ownership. Then somebody says, well, how do you make money? It's the application, how you act with it. But the means of production have been redistributed. That's why we had CARINET in the 1980s. One-person businesses, that was already mentioned already. So this is their office today. To do that, in 20, 30 years, each one would charge a couple devices off at a beach having a good time. Keeping track of it all, I've already mentioned. This is how we do it ourselves. And the project is a global think tank put together by different systems. We put it all in a State of the Future report, and I thank the chairman for letting me go on.
Lo que me queda claro es que en el futuro